Welcome to another episode of AhHa Moments. I'm joined with Hans and Kevin over here.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Dude, never been better.
Oh, it's good, Kev.
Fantastic.
Episode 4.
I think it's 5.
I think it's 5.
5.
We're getting closer to our goal.
What was it to get him all percent?
Shooting for 20.
20 episodes or so. Really excited for today. We have a super special guest, which we're going to get to in a moment.
We are honored.
Well, we had a lot of feedback that having a guest last time was good.
I think
like
people
Jake.
I think people want. Yeah, people love Jake.
They asked, Jake asked us if he could be on for a while, and he said, "Can I be a special guest?" And we're like, "No, you can be guest." And if people ask you back, and we heard quite a few people, mostly from Kosovo, that said they'd want
he's
Jake back.
almost at special guest status.
Right.
Yeah,
I'm excited. I think today we have an actual special guest.
Yeah, we do. A lot happened since the last episode. First of all, Thanksgiving, my favorite holiday. How was your Thanksgiving?
Love Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Gifts, football, friends. Oh, wait, no gifts. That's the best part.
Kevin, you strike me like somebody probably did a 5K turkey trot or something.
We did a turkey trot. Don't forget, though, Black Friday, one of my favorite holidays. The day after Thanksgiving, got to get those deals.
Is that why we have so many more flat screens in the office?
We have so many TVs right now. It's fantastic.
They just practically give them away. Hans, I know you're a big turkey guy. What'd you do this year?
We went up to Minneapolis. It was fourth generation of my family hosting Thanksgiving, so I had 60 plus. My wife's family did about 70 plus down in Peoria. It was a great time.
That's nice.
Good time.
Kev, what'd you do after the 5K?
We bounced around a lot of different family dinners, lunches, breakfasts, a lot of kids and cousins. We just had a great time.
Any risotto for breakfast?
No breakfast risottos.
Okay, that's
stuck
good.
to the traditional pilgrim food of bacon, eggs, etc.
Love it.
That story would be wonderful in a different episode. I got to fry a turkey, by the way, this time. Thank you for your turkey fryer.
You fried a turkey.
By far the best turkey thing I've ever
So
had.
good.
Not because I did it, because I think anything fried just tends to work out.
It's 50 minutes and you're done.
So all right. Couple of things that have also happened since this whole thing, okay?
Yeah.
Political ads are gone.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
I miss them a little bit.
Do you really?
Yeah, I was entertained.
I feel like I never miss ads until some election happens. And I'm like, oh, I want regular ads back. Like, they were wonderful. The other thing is we've been traveling a lot as usual. And I thought we'd start with some TSA tips this time around.
TSA tips.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I think I'm reaching 130 flights this year. And I feel like I'm qualified and similar. I think we all had a lot of flights. And going through TSA may be probably the biggest thing that makes a big difference. Which I think, we talk, O'Hare does a really good job.
O'Hare does a good job.
Midway does a great job.
Midway's great.
I think we got... I got blacklisted at the Atlanta airport after our last podcast. I'm quadruple S now every time I go through there. So I'm not going to say anything bad. Atlanta, you're great. Thank you.
You're a wonderful airport.
Oh, my goodness.
Your machines that screen baggage, great.
Yeah.
Couple tips.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here we go.
When you pull up with your boarding pass, have your ID ready. It's what they need 99% of the time.
The sign says that.
The sign says it. They actually yell it.
Okay, that's a good one.
It's winter.
Yeah.
Take off your coat and stuff before you get to the line as you're waiting in line.
That's helpful.
Alban, sometimes you've taken your shoes off even though you're in TSA pre, and we've had several TSA pre members kind of yell at you. What would a tip be for these people?
Not the TSA officers, the other people. Like, oh,
No,
you don't
people
need
going through the TSA pre line.
Yeah, I'm like, guys, my shoes have metal in them, right? Yeah. And if you have metal in your shoes, take them off because you're going to set off the thing and you have to start all over and everybody else is stuck behind you, which brings me to my next point. We came up, I know we've talked about this. We think there should be a detention system for the TSA.
Yes.
If you get caught with a bottle of water in your bag and you have TSA pre for 1 month, you're banned from TSA pre.
You got to go to the Gen Pop line.
Yes, absolutely. So we don't get, if you break any of these rules, right?
Yeah.
You should get for a month, let people like us who are there every day, like let us get through in peace and we all learn a lesson, I think.
I think you should have to take a test, right? What's happening is all these credit cards give you TSA. So everyone takes TSA now, right? It's not special.
It's not. Right? And it used to be. And Clear was special for a minute. Even that's becoming a thing. Kevin, you introduced me to something that I love.
Which one?
Everything. TSA Instagram is fascinating.
Oh, if you're on your phone right now, pull that thing out, follow, like, subscribe to the TSA Instagram. By far, I think their tagline is something like Princess of the Puns, lover of the canines. They do nothing but show you weird things they've confiscated, and they always have great dad jokes on it.
Some incredible dad jokes, incredible puns, and I'm just like, wow, we should hire their social person. They do a really good job.
Proof again that we're on different internets.
Yeah, completely.
Oh, you don't follow? Right?
No,
That's the beauty. That's the beauty of working
I'll
together.
take out my phone now.
Kevin, I know that New Year's is approaching, and you have something that really bothers you around this time of year and 4th of July. What's on your mind today?
Listen, it's a jolly time of year. We like to keep things happy, but there is this one thing as we think about New Year's Eve. Everyone thinks about champagne, fireworks. Why do people videotape fireworks, right? You go to these fireworks shows, you see some lady, man, mom, whatever, that are sitting there with their camera watching the fireworks. Are you ever going to go back and watch that? Ever? Like,
I feel like we should run a poll to see if anybody's ever gone back and watched a video of the fireworks after they were going to the fireworks.
I will tell you no. Right? And think about if you get pulled over to someone's house and they pull out their phone and show, let me show you this great video.
The fireworks.
The fireworks.
The Naperville fireworks.
That's
Hans,
just
I hear you have a good New Year's Eve story.
Well, I have a great story. You guys know I like to mess with people a little bit. And so I've got a good friend who had an apartment, one of those south side of Chicago high rises. You could see the fireworks on New Year's.
Oh, fantastic.
And we're at his house. There's about 40 of us over there. We're having a good time. Champagne's popping. They drop the ball, and all of a sudden the fireworks are shooting over Lake Michigan. Okay. And I'm watching out the window. I'm watching these fireworks, and then I noticed that people were watching the fireworks show on the TV because they were watching the ball drop, and so they're paying attention to the person on TV. You imagine these are on delay, right? Mm-hmm. So what I would do is I'd watch the live fireworks, and then I would go back to the TV and I would guess in order what firework was coming. Here's the red one. Here's the blue one. Here's the white sprinkles. They looked at me like I was Nostradamus. I kid you not. They're like, how do you know? I'm like, oh, it's the same show every year.
Sounds like you guys had a blast.
Well played.
Thank you.
Hans always has a little bit of an edge. You just got to figure out where it's coming from. It's brilliant. All right, back to our regularly scheduled programming, because I feel like there was a disruptive way of you to figure out the firework thing. So way back, and this is why we're excited to have our special guest. Way back when we started Inspire 11, our ethos and our why was that change and disruption are guaranteed, and we continue to live in this world that the pace of change and disruption is increasing every day. And it's not linear. It's actually exponential, right? And we're currently living through AI, and that's just the latest and greatest of one of the massive disruptions out there. But when we ran around back in 2016, 2017, we would talk to clients about change and disruption. In fact, there was a fact of 52% of the Fortune 500 companies at that point had disappeared from the last 15 years because of the pace of disruption that was happening. And this was the reason we existed. And I recall we'd go to meetings, and sometimes we would show people a slide that had the cover of Forbes with the CEO of Nokia. And it said on there, the 1 billion customer giant who will ever catch up to them.
Yeah.
What year was that?
That was the 2 months after the iPhone 1 was released, I think. Yeah.
And how's your Nokia today?
Well, that's what we asked clients back then too. None of them had Nokias. They never called our bluff.
He never called our bluff. It was interesting because I think, and this is why we're excited to have our special guest. When we ran around and we talked about these things, change and disruption is happening. And we find that people sometimes are sleepers on it, and they continue to lay on it to see what will happen until it's far too late. And usually disruption doesn't come in one big wave. It's a little bit at a time that completely erodes business models. So this is why we're excited to have our special guest. I'm really honored. We are honored to have him on our show. He was one of our first clients. We've done some incredible stuff together. He's become a better friend of ours. And the reason we all came together is because he is a disruptor. Albert,
Self-proclaimed
disruptor. Albert, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
We're excited to have you. A bunch of things about Albert. Super successful. Has lived in an industry that is one of the most relevant, and I'll let him talk to it. And has been a disruptor in it, and is a builder, and is a go-getter, and is a successful executive, but he does it all from the human side of things, which is why we love working with Albert, because he remembers at the end of the day what we're in this for. So Albert, why don't you give our audience a little bit of background of your career, and then we'll get into some other things together.
I appreciate the kind words in the opening, Alban. And I'm a pharmacist by training. Went to school to become a pharmacist, and pharmacy by itself is incredibly important in the healthcare industry. It's always the first line of defense to be preventative in nature for the most part. And my career has led me through companies like Caremark and CVS Caremark and Optum and Catamaran. And, I pretty much since have gotten out of that role and now advise in the private equity space, but also sit on multiple boards of other healthcare companies that are really thoughtful, provocative, and doing some things differently. And I'm in a really good position to allow it to foster some of that change.
Albert, it's been incredible to watch what you do over the last 7-8 years that we've been working together. You really are in an industry that doesn't really disrupt, because one, there's people involved. Two, it just tends to be regulated and everything else that comes with being in that world. Tell us, how have you seen disruption play out in the last 10, 20 years? And how have you worked in that world and been a leader and someone who stood out this entire time?
Well, I think the disruption piece is key, because there's a big part of healthcare that's also cyclical in nature. And if I think maybe broadly over the last, my 30 plus year career, and then maybe even a little bit past that, you got to remember that there was a part in time where pharmacy aspect and these companies that manage the pharmacy benefit managers, they were once owned by pharmaceutical companies way back in the day.
Oh, wow.
And, the legal system got involved and said, hey, you know what? You really shouldn't just be promoting your own products, and you really shouldn't own these management companies, and they had to break them out. Remember, Merck owned a company, Lilly owned a company, and then they became separate and independent. And then the health plans owned them again, and then the health plans divested them again. And then the evolution of the industry itself became into what we know today. The companies like Express Scripts and Optum and Medco at the time, but there was a lot of merger activity that happened along the board. But some of them, probably the most meaningful disruptive entities, I would say one would be the merger between Caremark and CVS at the time, which put a large PBM and a retailer in the same company. So where the pharmacy benefit manager at the time was now controlling 30,000+ retail stores and what they can do. I was fortunate to be a part of that transaction back in 2000 and, it was 14? I'm sorry, no, CVS Caremark was 2007. I'm sorry. It was 2007. And, for the first time, it was like, how is one industry, which is at mortal enemies with another part of the supply chain, getting together to figure something out, which was new. That was disruptive at the time. We fast forward to now to where, CVS Caremark now owns a large health plan in Aetna. There's CVS Aetna now, and it is another large disruptor.
Yeah.
And it causes tension, it causes pricing pressures, it causes people to think differently in the space. And then probably the third, I would say, is the evolution of specialty pharmacy, because it's not technically regular pharmacy, and they're high, complex, incredibly expensive medications. We're talking anywhere between $1 million to $1.5 million per patient per year for a therapy.
Wow.
I mean, there's complexity wrapped around it. So I think some of those disruptive things, and I can probably name another 20 along what I have seen, but those are probably some of the high level ones.
So as you've gone through, and we've done some stuff together, and I recall our first project having this, what do you think are some key tendencies to make innovation be a wonderful disruptor to industries like this? As you think about going and disrupting your industry or other, what comes to mind for you that, hey, these are things to make this thing successful?
It's a great question, and I think this is at least what I have seen over my years, is where certain companies fall flat on their face when they try to innovate or they try to say that they're innovative in general. First off is their level of understanding of their business and of the industry itself. And leaders today need to have what I would say is an intimate understanding of their customer relationships, their supply chain relationships, the industry in and of itself, and more importantly, where the industry is going. You know, it's almost back to the old adage of, you know, I want to skate to where the puck is going to be,
Right.
you know, not where it is today. And not many leaders today in healthcare can actually see that or want to see it. So that understanding, whether it's the industry or the business model itself and the relationships inherently built within, will provide opportunity, but more importantly, provide opportunities for where financial gain, innovation, or disruption could occur. That's the first piece. The other piece is agility. You know, how agile is the company, and can they actually mobilize quickly or mobilize around failure quickly? You know, we do talk about being able to fail fast and scale fast, you know, when it comes to being innovative. But when you fail fast, you have to remediate quickly, you know, and that comes back to the agility of the company in general. And are they willing to do that? Yeah. And then lastly, I would say is that there is a really distinct line between taking a calculated risk and being reckless. And that is incredibly important because you can't be innovative without taking risk in the business today. And we know some risks are going to cause failure, and failure is okay. But again, fail fast, be agile, remediate, and then move on from there. And I think so too often, healthcare broadly, in broad strokes, has become so complacent and so dependent upon its legacy infrastructure and business acumen that it's much harder to innovate than it is to change that existing infrastructure that generates a fair amount of profit, a fair amount of healthcare coverage, et cetera, and a lot of complexity wrapped around in it.
So Albert, when we met in 2017, I think the reason that we got along so well is because you had this disruptor, innovative mindset. And then you said you started your career as being a pharmacist. That's the last place I want innovation, right? I've seen It's a Wonderful Life a bunch of times. I don't think you're supposed to play around with the drugs, right? So stay consistent.
That's right.
So what was the spark for you to want to be innovative in the healthcare space as opposed to follow the scientific method, follow the plan, right? It's an industry that actually behooves you to not be innovative and disruptive. What was that spark for you?
The thing that did it for me, Hans, quite frankly, was it shouldn't be this hard. It actually shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't take forever to get a prescription from a pharmacist or get a prescription from a physician, fulfill the prescription, get it to the patient who needs it, and make it affordable. It's really that simple. Now, there's a lot of complexities built into how the claim is paid and the clinical screening that has to go along with that, and it gets complex and lines get long at retail and how you deliver the prescription ultimately at the end of the day. But it shouldn't be that hard. Yeah. And at that point in time when we had met, it was hard. It was taking time. And we're dealing with billions of pharmacy transaction claims in the United States today, which back then, 17, I'm going to guess here, it was probably around a $400 to $500 billion U.S. marketplace, you know, for prescription pharmaceuticals at that time in the U.S. alone. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a healthy part of the industry ecosystem. Yeah. And it was complicated. And for me, I just said, there's no way that it needs to continue to be this complicated. So I remember when we met, it's like, here's what we're going to do. You know, I got all these claims. And I think for the viewers out there, I remember it's like, because I purposely wanted, against the advice of a lot of people, to bring in technology people who didn't know pharmacy. And it was important because I could teach you the pharmacy aspect. I can teach you the claim, but what I wanted was thoughtful, really meaningfully provocative consultants that were engaging from a strategic level, but also from an intuitive level on what we can do with all the data that we have. And that's where bringing together, you know, the infrastructure of all the claim sets and the data that we had to really figure out what was going on. What was going on from a payment perspective, what was going on from a delivery and a care perspective, how we were processing claims, how we were paying claims, how we were treating the patient, what visibility we were giving to the patient, what visibility we were giving to the payers, the transparency inherently built within, and that's where the focus of our project was. I know it was a huge technical lift. It was a lot of people over a long period of time, but at the end of the day, I felt that advancement and disruption in technology was probably the biggest mover for that particular engagement that got us off the ground.
So this is it brings me to a memory I have from the beginning. You having this disruptive mindset took a chance on us. And we were just getting off the ground, but I think we connected on that disruptive mindset. Not everybody did. So Hans, I recall you going to a meeting of Fortune 200.
Yeah.
And
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And I think at the time we were just kicked off a project with Albert, and it was going really well. And we ran around with this idea of disruption.
Yeah.
Not everybody's always receptive to it. And then they how did the meeting go?
I love the way Albert framed that, which is I don't understand why it's that hard, right? At the end of the day, kind of inefficiency, complacency, commoditization, they're all 4-letter words to us. And I was meeting, we had a chance meeting. This is a massive telecommunications client here in Chicago. And, we lied and told them we were about 10 people. I think we were about 6 at the time. And we had a great breakfast, and we were talking about digital disruption in that space. And I was really excited about the way the conversation was going. We seemed to be vibing. Our salesperson was all excited. And then that person asked the question. They're like, wait, tell me again how big you are? Because I think we were having such big conversations, big ideas. And I'm like, we're 10 people, like I mentioned before. 6, maybe. And he goes, oh, you're tiny. And I think most people would have said, yeah, we are, or whatever. I said, sure, but I would have liked to work with the first 10 people from your company, too. Like these people that grew a massive Fortune 200 company in my backyard of Chicago, right? You want to work with those people that have that different mindset. And I think, as you mentioned, like Albert, for whatever reason, kind of vibed with us right away on that idea of like, if I want to disrupt, why would I go with the status quo? Right? It would be really easy to pick the largest vendors in our space to go work with you, but I think you recognized that wasn't going to lead to the type of changes that you were looking to make within an industry. Let me ask you a question, Albert. So, and maybe we were the first try at that and technology was a safer space, but my guess is that you probably have seen combinations of industries kind of impacting yours and taking those big chances. So what are some other examples where you've seen big ideas come from outside the healthcare ecosystem to have a big impact within healthcare?
It's, I want to comment. I'll get to that, but I wanted to comment on your last comments there, Hans, was that for me, now we did a broad-based RFP with other technological firms, before we agreed on Inspire 11 at the time. And, the price range was from A to Z, obviously. And, I knew you guys were small at the time, but ultimately, for me, it was almost like conducting an interview and you're hiring a brand new employee, and you can develop a feel for somebody on how that working relationship's going to go, how the chemistry is going to be, and how genuine the people really are in meeting your needs or solving a problem with you in a collaborative fashion. And I felt that with both of you guys well above and beyond anybody else that we did there. And that means more to me than a lot of the years' experience. Because remember, I said, I don't care if you know pharmacy or not. I'll teach you that. I want really smart, intellectually capable people who are going to help me solve this problem. So that's the first piece. To close the loop on your thought. The second piece on the outside disruptive aspect of it is, I think in terms of pharmacy itself, pharmacy, has evolved into a point where the industry itself is trying to put pharmacy back into the pharmacy equation as a provider. For the longest period of time, they were the most trusted provider in healthcare, above nurses and above doctors. It's because you're going to get your prescription. It makes me feel better. It's an immediate, tangible result in most cases, and I believe what they're telling me. Even if my insurance is wrong or my insurance could be better, they'll tell me about it, or they're going to help me get better at some point in time. So part of that was coming into play. One area of that was the evolution of telemedicine into healthcare.
Interesting.
Now that we're trying to solve this issue of affordability and accessibility of healthcare, telemedicine became a viable instrument to provide better healthcare, and pharmacists were involved with it. We, in particular, in this one specialty pharmacy I was working for, we were able now to counsel and instruct patients on how to use self-injectables or educate a caregiver on how to administer drugs through telemedicine, where they couldn't actually maybe have the means to drive to a pharmacy to get there or wait in line for that. So telemedicine was a huge evolution for the space, and it currently still is today. I mean, it's evolved now from just even some of that, lower level conversational piece between pharmacists and patients now to you can actually do certain visits with your physician without even going to see the physician face to face now.
You mentioned, Albert, about skating towards the puck, and I think this is a great example of where things are starting to go. Are there some other trends that you're seeing in healthcare, and what are some of those big trends on where things are going?
We are curious and also somewhat fearful around the applicability of AI into healthcare today. I'm a huge fan of it. I mean, because I think it is going to be massively disruptive to the space. And when I say massively disruptive, there's areas for immense opportunity and efficiency improvements from there. There's also an element of, increased fraud, waste, and abuse that occurs with the system in general. We're always going to have bad actors with any technology or any evolution of disruption that occurs. We're going to see that. But hopefully the good outweighs the bad piece. But I'm super curious to see how AI is being applied. It's being applied in some aspects today, but probably not to the breadth and magnitude where it could to be, super empathetic and super, proficient in healthcare.
I think this time next year that we will be having this conversation, and because of AI, I think we're just starting to see the crazy amount of disruption that'll happen, not just in this industry and everywhere. Albert, I think one of the things that makes you unique, and I think why we also clicked, is to do disruption innovation. We believe that it doesn't always have to be this massive brand that's done it. We actually think it should be, just like you, maybe potentially people who haven't been in that industry. And you took a chance on us, and we did all this stuff together. What was really also unique was you took this chance on us with a small organization. We did something really cool there, completely transformed it. And then we took the same thing to a much larger organization. And we find ourselves at times, and I think this was no exception to your experience of people, large organizations specifically. And I think to your point, you said earlier, there's complacency. People are afraid to take a risk. And do you think the risk was worth the reward? And how do we get other people to think through innovation is scary, but it's also necessary. And it doesn't always come from within the walls.
Yeah, it's a great point. And I think in certain organizations, even the larger one that you are referencing there, you got to maybe take some baby steps. And when we talk about disruption is a scary word to a lot of people, particularly really well-run, healthy organizations that are complacent. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Leaders that are running them, and disruption could be very tiny in its element, like disrupting a technology or disrupting a business process. We're not talking about disrupting the entire business model in and of itself.
Sure.
And I think that's when they think of disruption, that's what they think of. Well, you're going to come in and change how I price and how my product development works and how I implement things and how I treat my customers. And it's going to be like this big night and day, oil and water type of culture. And I'm fearful of that because that has meaningful impact to my business and my earnings. That's not what we're talking about here.
Yep.
We are talking about taking very, again, calculated risks and calculated approaches to the business that are not reckless. That previous, methodology would have been entirely reckless, but taking a very calculated risk on finding the opportunities and improving on what they have. And technology is an easy way. I mean, for that large organization, we can say, well, we did this with this small organization and it just, went gangbusters and we improved the financials like threefold and ended up transacting that company after 18 months, which was a remarkable feat in and of itself. And we had many inbound requests on that privately held company, and it was extraordinary. This larger company, although reticent at first on deploying the same project, basically, infrastructure, technology, data warehouse, visibility, analytics, and applying the analytics to run the business the accordingly right way, they bought into it, and they finally got it. There's like, really? I didn't know this was happening. And this is impacting this particular vendor relationship. And oh, by the way, this vendor's been pulling the wool over my eyes for the last 25 years. And now I got data to prove them wrong. It's like, here you go.
Yep.
Now go have a nice day and let's recraft that relationship, up to which they did. And that particular large client I will tell you that infrastructure, that technology awareness and data information that was provided to them, that was close to a $1 billion reckoning for them, where they were being overcharged in the market that was,
Which
seemingly
ultimately
corrected from the work that we did.
which ultimately impacts the patients,
Yes.
right? Those costs are going back to the
Yes.
The humans that
the
are dealing
humans
with
that
real
are
life
sick
events.
that need medication. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you had mentioned, again, I want to go back to skating to where the puck's at, because I know you don't have a crystal ball, but you seem to have a really good grasp on where the industry is headed. And the way that we look at kind of the great disruptions and innovations in any space when you apply technology, it's usually access and then use of information. So if you think about it, back in the day, right, Gutenberg invents the printing press. All of a sudden, we have to teach people how to read. But now I can disseminate a bunch of knowledge. And then you get the computer introduced to the work environment, the internet. I truly believe that AI is kind of that next big thing. So if you could pick one or two use cases that you're super excited about, not as fearful, but excited about within the healthcare ecosystem with the use of AI, what would they be?
I'm gonna stick with healthcare because this is incredibly important to me, and healthcare is very, very personal to all of us.
Yeah.
Whether it's ourselves or a loved one that we're close to. But again, I try to break this down as simple as I can, Hans, is that the evolution that I would like to see, and I don't know if AI or a combination of AI and some other technologies are part of it, is that we have got to get the information of healthcare into the hands of the actual consumers of healthcare.
Yep.
And this is the analogy that I like to make, is that every industry that you look at today, if it's the travel industry, when's the last time you talked to a travel agent?
Right.
You can go pick your own hotel. You can pick the points you want. You can pick the location, more importantly, the hotel you want to get to, and get a really, really good rate. You could shop the rate and figure it out. Renting a car, you don't even talk to the desk anymore. You just go to your Avis or Hertz and you find
Grab
your
this
space number.
expensive asset and
And
drive out.
and you go on everything, on all the process and the financials and the claims already processed. The same way with the music industry. I still love going to concerts. Monica and myself and Noah and his girlfriend Jenna went to see Brett Eldridge, the Christmas show here in Chicago this past
great.
Sunday. Extraordinary. Love seeing live music. But I stream a lot of it.
Yeah.
I don't buy records and albums or 8-track tapes anymore. Sorry, I'm dating myself. But at the end of the day, it's in the hands of the consumer. The consumer is in control of what they want.
Yes.
Think about a world in healthcare where all of us here, you can pick your doc, you can order your lab test, you can see your lab test, you can order your pharmacy, you can get it, you can talk to the doc, you can set up a telemedicine review if you want to, you can have affordable, accessible healthcare where the patient themselves are their own advocate, and it works. And that's where I think this kind of like next evolution, Hans, I would like to see, where I think people are really pushing really hard on it. But that evolution is bumping up a very stodgy, archaic, I don't want to say complacent system, which is basically trying to turn the Titanic away from the iceberg. Yeah. Very, very slow, methodical turns that may hit iceberg, maybe it won't.
And I know for a fact that us and Albert and us together are working towards that world, because that is the ultimate where we need to get to. And there's been zero transparency in that world. What about you two? From a disruptive thing for 2025 as we look out, where do you think you see, whether it's AI or any industry, how they're going to be impacted? I did read that homework companies are going out of business because of AI.
Sure.
So like tutoring and help writing and everything. But where do you think you're going to see some really big disruption?
I'll continue down that learning path, right? I have 2 young children in my life right now, and every time I sit there with them, I continue to think, how is their learning and education going to be different than mine was, 20, 30 years ago?
Yeah.
In the way they access information and knowledge and all those sorts of things, I think is going to be just remarkable.
I think I remember Hans said when he went to Loyola, there was books in the library. Where do you see this thing?
On paper?
Well, yeah. When I was in Abacus 301, because I was advanced. You guys are the worst. I'll take it back to the healthcare space because I think it impacts all of us, and I think there's 2 different sides of the coin, and we deal this with a lot of our clients. I want to get to the point where we can automate the things that are automatable, so that we can free up creativity. So if you think about the brilliant minds that are doctors or pharmacists or researchers or scientists, most of their job, even our employees, is doing rote mechanical tasks that could be automated.
Yes.
So can I get to a point where if it's a simple procedure to me in a healthcare situation, why wouldn't I have a robot operate on me? Like, I don't want a doctor that maybe was hungover, or broke up with his girlfriend, or she had a bad day at work or whatever operating on me right now. Like, what I want is just a robot doing a simple thing.
Yeah.
But I want the creativity of the doctor that says, I've never seen anything quite like this before, and I'm going to bring all my brilliance to bear, along with this foundation that I have from something that's automated, to bring a new solution to light. That's what gets me really excited. That can be across any industry, but when I look at healthcare in particular, like, let's go cure cancer, like, let's go stop, disease. It's there, right? And we can utilize the technology at play to accelerate that process if we can get all the stakeholders together on the same page.
Well, in that world, right, you're talking about a world where every individual, regardless of where they are around the world, have access to the best surgeon in the world.
Yeah,
right.
right.
And every surgeon is learning from each other,
Yeah.
and it's just a wonderful, wonderful
That robot
world.
could even be a digital twin of the best surgeon out there.
That's
Yep.
right. That's right. And it doesn't
Like,
matter.
everybody
if you're
gets Dr. James Andrews for their knee surgery.
That's
It's
right.
like,
That's right.
yeah.
But
The,
at minimum, give that information to the patient so the patient knows who is the best surgeon.
That's
If I have the resources to go find the best surgeon and go out of network or in network from my healthcare, I'll go. Like
Yes.
I said, I want to advocate for myself, but even today, Hans, there's the normal layperson patient won't even have access or even know who that is.
It's a great point.
I like that you bring it back to this, because I also think, as you're talking about, hey, I don't want people to spend time doing essentially mundane tasks. I remember back in when we worked on some precision economics platform, I learned that the PhDs, the data scientists who did research to develop different strains of things, spend 95% of their time gathering the data, 5% running models, right? That's useless. I say that as this. Innovation is scary, which is why I think sometimes people don't do it. And I remember when we sat and showed our team how to create a PowerPoint deck in 10 seconds using AI, there was people that came and said, hey, now you're replacing my job. We're like, no. We're taking the part away of the job of moving boxes around and things that we all hate doing. And we're leaving you time to do creative thinking on how do we leverage this technology to get better things done. On a lighter note, are there bad brain surgeons out there? Because I thought they were just ENT doctors.
You don't get to work up
Yeah,
here.
they're like, okay, you stick here.
I don't think there's patients living to tell if their brain surgeon was bad or not.
Albert, I have one selfish question for our organization. We're grateful you took a risk on us.
Yes.
We're grateful for everything we've done together. How has been your experience, would you say, working with our organization, and both good or bad?
Well, I will first say there's no bad that has come from any of the projects that we have done, and we've done many of them. I will say that probably one of the biggest things is that it's not just one individual at Inspire 11. Of course, I've got relationships with Kevin and Hans and you, Alban, and we can go there to talk about it. But the people who are actually doing the work, they change, and they're all really good. So I don't know what secret sauce you have on the training aspect of it, or kind of like the Inspire 11 mentality of how they engage and collaborate. But, I can't name all the people that we have worked with for the day-to-day project managers, but they have been exceptional, and they're fun people to talk to. They're honest people. I mean, one of the biggest things that I appreciate is the honesty. If this is going to cost more money than we need to, or it's going to be this level of risk that we've kind of miscalculated, tell me that. Like I said, it gets back to the agility piece. We'll reformat and we will remediate around that. But all too often, I get really sick and tired of talking to people, and they tell me what they think I want to hear, versus being honest with me and saying, this is what I really think you should do, and here's why. So I think, for me, it's probably been one of the most gratifying relationships, and it continues to be. I mean, I already have the next project in the back of my mind that we're thinking about moving on with. This is going to be fun.
Good.
Well,
we have a pen and a contract.
Yeah. I'll say this. We talked about this earlier today, so thank you for the kind words. We also, similar to when we started working with you, you reminded us that at the end of the day, when we're working in pharmacy, we're talking about lives and people. we also remind our clients that our people that our clients aren't clients. They are people also, right? And we have to be transparent, similar to the industry you talked about, and we have to be real, and we have to remember that at the end of the day, I actually think every industry would benefit realizing that people are people at the end of the day. We are very grateful for you. We're grateful you came on our show. On a lighter note here to wrap it up, and before we get to the next episode, I'm something light that you're excited about next year. I'm going to just go ahead and say my Indiana Hoosiers are in their first college football playoff against Notre Dame.
Congratulations.
Thank
no
you.
longer a basketball school.
A lot of football hoodies sold for the first time at IU right now. A lot of new IU football.
I didn't
fans.
even know they made them. I didn't know they made them.
They took all those basketball hoodies and just replaced basketball with football.
and put a football in there. I am very excited for our team. Something light you're excited about for next year. Any one of you?
The fireworks show on January 1st. Yeah, I'll show you some videos.
Albert?
I'm just excited for just every day.
Yeah.
That is it. You
Yeah.
know, I think there's huge opportunity for the world to get into a better place, and some more merger and acquisition activity that's going to continue. And I think hopefully more disruptors that actually start changing some of the legacy stuff that we're sick and tired of.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm most excited about episode 6 because it's probably going to be next year. And here's the thing. Our last episode was about how lucky are you? And if I could name 2 people that have impacted our company more, I would have said Jake and Albert. So to have our first 2 guests be kind of 2 people that really changed the trajectory of our firm and took a chance on us and I think felt lucky, but also put the hard work in as well. It's a great representation of what we're trying to do. So excited to see everybody in the new year. And I don't know, I'm pumped.
I'm pumped too. Thank you all for joining us. Happy New Year and happy holidays to everybody. We're excited to come back. Albert, thank you. We're forever
My
grateful.
pleasure.
And we look
Thank you,
forward to
guys.
disrupting
Thank you.
together.
Of
All right.
course.
Thank you very much.
Another one.
Take care.